When looking for the king of podcasts, you're at the wrong channel.
Well, excuse me!
Looking for good ideas for life? You're far from good hands.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
If you think the listener is always right, you're far from the right place.
Out of order! Even in the future, nothing works!
Hosted by a Northeasterner by birth, but a rebel by choice.
Are you threatening me?
If you want a host that floats between love and madness,
and we know the night is always gonna be here anyway. Thinking of you's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight.
then play on and listen to Crazy Train Radio.
All right, guys, listen to this blues riff and B. Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay?
Within the gaming world, there are your general gamers, but then there are those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming. If you're one of those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming, we certainly got the place to send you. Scorpion Lair Games. That's right, Scorpion Lair Games is the creators of the true crime hit Killers, the card game. Let's not forget they also have Killers Clothing Company, their profiler game, and things like the 5-Minute Murder channel on YouTube. And we certainly can't forget the new book that is certainly a hit, Beyond the Headliners, True Crimes, Myths, and Legends. Make sure you visit Jeff and the Scorpion Lair Games on Facebook and everywhere today.
Hey, this is Brett Boone, former Major League All-Star, and you're listening to Crazy Train Radio.
Hey folks, it's your least favorite host in the podcast world, Croc, Jonathan Steele. And boy, do we have a good one for you today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this next guest is no stranger to the game of baseball and the ball of diamond. So obviously we will be speaking so much of the game with him. He has had over 40,000 that I'm aware of athletes advance under this next guest, including somewhere along the lines of 300 MLB players, such as one local to us in Mike Trout, by showing elite coaching success. This guest certainly helps transform player weaknesses into strength by using customized training, enhancing performance metrics, and so many other little things. So let's go ahead and welcome the hit doctor himself, Mr. Joe Barth. Hi, Joe. How you doing?
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
So, first and foremost, and I like to be upfront and honest with the listeners who will hear this, and it was funny. We were supposed to do this last week, but I got caught up with some show stuff out in LA and Southern California, etc. And, so completely misjudged my time. So me and Joe were exchanging messages, trying to figure out for this week, etc. And I said, this is probably a long shot, but do you are you aware or you relate it to the Barths of South Jersey? Because in about I'd say about 2 miles, if that, from where I'm sitting, is the Joe Barth Field in the American Legion Field in Brookline, New Jersey. And he goes, "Yep, that's me." So I was like, "Holy cow, such a small world."
It's sort of me and my dad started the Brookline program in 1950, and then I took over, and now my brother Dennis, he coaches St. Gloucester Catholic in Brookline. But yeah, we've been in baseball a long time, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And like I said, you guys have had so much success with everything. And I know you, according to the internet, because we know everything online is true, you personally have over 45 years of coaching experience. Like you said, your dad was the founder of everything that we know of today as far as the coaching and everything else. So what for you, what was baseball or what is baseball all about, would you say?
Well, right now, I mean, I I grew up playing sandlot ball, and I happened to play in Belmar Little League for a lot of great coaches back in those days. Most of the coaches were lifers, and I had a great career, and I've always seemed to have great coaches, and I just loved baseball, and I felt like my career ended in college, and it shouldn't have, because after a couple of years in college, the coach decided to change everything about my hitting, and that was my strength. I could really hit till he messed with me. So after I got out of the military, it was during Vietnam. After I got out of the service, I pretty much made a study of hitting, and I think I did a lot of things right naturally, and so it's became a lifetime work trying to learn more and help kids with the hitting. And I feel like what we do makes a lot more sense. And now with all the metrics and all the studies, we're starting to find out that what I did when I was 7 years old and till I was 21, it was a lot more correct than what was being taught back in the day. But anyway, hitting's an obsession with me and my family, and that's how we build our teams on basically on hitting and power pitching. And I feel like we've put a lot of time in it. My dad, my brothers, and myself.
Well, obviously, when you're going to be coaching both hitters and pitchers through the Hit Doctor or Arsenal USA, what is your philosophy, would you say, in coaching? Because it's not like you say if we are training plumbers or electricians or doctors or whatever the case is, where you have a certain way to do certain things, because
Yeah, you're exactly
obviously,
right.
everybody hits different and everybody registers things different.
Well, that's it. And for 100 years, people have been trying to find the commonalities of hitters and then find the one correct way to hit. And there's still like two of the prominent gurus today are sit and spin uppercut guys that have taken credit for certain major leaguers and say they can teach everybody how to do that. It's just not true. There's no one way to hit. I've had a lot of great hitters, and every great hitter is an original, and your body will tell you how to move. By the time you're 12 years old, the kids already know how their body should move. They may not be able to verbalize it. They move in a certain way and achieve contact and bat speed in a certain way. So for me to come along and cookie cut it, it's going to make 9 guys out of 10 worse. And like the two prominent guys right now that teach sit and spin, they would be good at teaching home run derby, but the problem exists that about 40 or 50% of the major leaguers in the Hall of Fame are uh, what you call aerial hitters. They use the front part of their body, and they're more stand up, use their hands more. And the current philosophy, home run derby philosophy, is basically sit and spin. And I mean, there's been successful guys like that for 100 years, but about half the Hall of Famers can do it, and half of them don't. But if a kid plays sand like we all grew up on the sand lots, every kid in the neighborhood had worked out by the time he was 13 how he should stand, how he should swing. And the difference a lot of times comes from your natural ability and your ability to increase your strength and your power. But a lot of it just has to do with balance and body coordination. And if you listen to your body, if you do what comes naturally, you're going to be more apt to be correct than having someone tell you how they hit. And that's what's been done for 100 years. You listen to somebody tell you how they hit, and you try to move like they tell you. And we trashed that philosophy 40 years ago. Basically what we do, and I make a short story long, is we look at players and how they make their outs. And you're either too fast or too slow. There's 4 ways of being too fast. There's 4 ways of being too slow. I could help little leaguers all the way up to major leaguers by simply identifying, here's how you make your outs. And I've worked with A-Rod. I've been around A-Rod, Ken Griffey Jr., Trouty, a lot of people. No one looks at it this way. But the bottom line is, if you got a 300 hitter, he's going in the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. And he still makes 7 outs out of 10. And if, in other words, when we're trying to send rockets to the moon, if we only send 7 out of 10 fall in the drink, wouldn't be considered a Hall of Famer, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. But let's look at a Hall of Famer hitting 300 and make 7 outs out of 10. Sometimes, until I tell them, other than your strikeouts, which are prominent, you make the most of your outs that you hit by, let's say, uppercutting. That's one of the 8 ways of making outs. There's 17 causes for uppercutting. Here's your causes. We're going to give you uppercutting drills that are very strong for the 17 reasons or the 2 reasons that you uppercut. And if you do them, our hope is that you eliminate one of those 7 outs, in which case you'll be a 400 hitter. You'll be the greatest hitter that ever lived. If you only eliminate half the outs you make by uppercutting, you'll be a 350 hitter. The bottom line is nobody seems to be looking at it that way. And, you know, in watching the Phillies, it's like they all make their outs the same way all the time, and nothing ever changes. And it's like, I just feel like they're going about it the wrong way. My job as a coach is to eliminate outs. And if my hitters don't make outs, we're not going to lose too many games. And the bottom line is we feel we can help everybody because everybody that ever played made outs. The only guys we can't help are the ones that are batting 1,000. And I don't know any of them, you know.
I haven't heard of any.
Yeah. But we have a database of 4,000 drills. And some of them are really strong. They'll help all uppercutters. And then if it's not working, we can go in the database based on the 17 causes someone has for uppercutting. And maybe this one particular drill will help him a lot more because it goes right to the heart of the matter. It's like whisk detergent. So that's effectively what we do. I don't try to change anybody's stance or swing. I try to change their results. And I try to get them replace their outs and their swings and misses with solid contact and hits. And I think we've been hugely successful in doing that.
Now, with all that being said,
yes,
from what I understand in terms of your coaching philosophy and things like that, where do you hold accountability, but also, if I heard this right, you also have players keep a diary I guess you can see their progression or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I made all my players keep a book, and now I've had it made into an app. And they basically they set goals, and then we do a plan for their hitting or their pitching or whatever. And this is what you're going to do in the in season, off season, preseason. And you're going to take this so many reps. And everything is focused on eliminating outs, or in pitchers' cases, creating better spin, better velocity, or better control. And here's the reps. When I grew up, we worked things out without parents and without coaches out on the sandlot. And I swear all the kids in my neighborhood were pretty good. And they all ended up playing at Gloucester High and Gloucester Catholic from playing every day in the sandlot. And really nobody ever showed any of us how to swing. So everybody swung different, but we played a long time. That's what we try to do. In other words, we try to make kids successful their way, but we also contest it. In other words, you either barrel the ball or you don't. And what percentage of the balls that we threw out of 100 did you really hit hard? And if you're hitting 50% of them hard, you're going to be the best hitter in New Jersey, right? Well, we practice. Our kids know what their numbers are and why they have to do better. And a lot of it's just strike zone recognition, which I don't think anybody emphasizes enough anymore. Seeing high speeds, seeing a lot of curveballs. That's what separates a lot of players in the upper levels of baseball, is being able to hit a breaking ball. And the biggest problem with that is just recognizing it. You don't see enough of them. When you're growing up, first 10 years, you see 99% fastballs in games and practice. So of course we hit fastballs pretty good. If we were seeing 99% curveballs, we hit them pretty good, but we don't. So in order to hit them, you have to build up a library as fast as you can of recognizing breaking balls. So again, we come up with a contraption where you can stand and swing. It's just a handle that clicks, but you stand and you swing at curveballs while all the pitchers are throwing their bullpens. I don't want to waste a pitcher throwing a curveball without one or two of my guys swinging at it, even if they're not allowed to hit it. They recognize it, they swing at it, they know whether they are on time or whether they would have hit it. And so we're trying to get them to, by the time they're 13 or 14, to have seen enough curveballs to actually be able to hit them. That's the difference in our training than a lot of other people. But right now, I've got a lot of guys in the big leagues, many of whom I guess no one's really heard of, but they can all hit, and they've all been pretty successful. And I would say, unless they've been messed with, their strike zone recognition is way above the chart. Like Trout's strike zone recognition is way above average, and so are most of my guys. I have quite a few guys up, and what separates them is the controlled reps, where they keep track of how many bad pitches they swung at, et cetera, et cetera. We try to measure everything, and I think that's what separates us from everybody else. We make baseball measurable. In other words, there's only two sports that every year, or every Olympiad, the world records go down, the Olympic records go down, in only two sports, swimming and track and field. Why? Because they're the only two sports where they're timed, they're measured every day in practice. So that's what we're trying to do with baseball. We make all the skills measurable. The kids go through 21 to 27 tests every month, and they know exactly how much better they're getting. Rather than wait till July next year to find out I'm in a slump, I want my kids to know whether they're getting better or worse right now. It's January. We're practicing all the time. Are you getting better or worse? Well, what do your numbers look like? So that's basically how we do it. And I haven't heard of too many people that do it that way. It's a lot of work, and the kids have to be dedicated enough to keep their book. Now it's an app, so it's a lot easier.
So, obviously, a big thing for youth baseball
Yes.
would be, or at least it was when I grew up, and I didn't really play organized baseball, past Little League, but obviously, two big things that I always remember hearing about and whatnot would be Legion baseball, but also travel baseball.
Yeah.
So, is that a good thing with kids getting involved? Because from what I understand, like on the coaching side of things, you remember, especially in this area, South Jersey, Philadelphia, etc., there might have been over three, maybe only three or four teams, but now there's something like over 600 travel teams.
Yeah, travel baseball has taken over. There's no question about that. And I don't know if it's been a good thing in a lot of ways, and it's a bad thing in a lot of ways. There's very little player development in most of the travel programs. They practice once or twice a week before the season starts, then they cut back to once a week. They play 5 or 6 games every weekend. The problem is Monday through Friday, they don't do anything. They don't practice. And the player development segment of baseball has been left up to the parents and the kids to get it on their own. And a lot of them just don't know that you're never going to be a great hitter if you don't hit every day. And so a lot of kids grow up not knowing that. The flip side, my son's a vice president for Perfect Game. What Perfect Game has done for my kids, for Brookline, for Gloucester Catholic, etc. My father had great teams and great players for 50 years, the first 30 of which no one ever came to see them unless they made the state finals. And even then, they were biased. Now we go down and beat up on teams from Texas, Florida, and California, and I'm getting all these guys drafted. Heck, we had players that good or better back in the 50s. But it's put baseball showcasing and performing on a level playing field. Mike Trout, Mike Trout's dad was a great, great ball player. And he played, 10 years in the minors,
AAA level,
in
right?
hitting. Yeah. But he didn't get the kind of money or the recognition that Mike did. If he had, he might have got a better shot back in the day. There's right now, I don't know if anybody's even aware of it because the Courier Post now doesn't really cover it anymore. But we got a lot of kids from our area in the major leagues that came through the Arsenal program and, different schools locally. And if it wasn't for Perfect Game, they probably never would have gotten signed. They were just like maybe Dave Martin and I were years ago. We were some of the better players in South Jersey nobody knew about, right? The only difference is we took them to Perfect Game in Georgia, and they performed down there and got a cup of coffee or get a shot to the big leagues. So now you got Joey Luperfido in the big leagues. You got Davis Snyder from Eastern in the big leagues. You got Anthony Volpe, Zach Geloff. All these kids are hitters from our area. Joey Mack was Marlins Player of the Year. Not only are all those boys in the big leagues, I think I got 19 of them right now in the big leagues, but they got a lot of money to sign. Back in the day, guys from South Jersey never got anything to sign, so they didn't always get a fair shot. I got a couple guys that the Mack brothers. They're on a fast path to the big leagues, and the boy from what was it? Not Edgewood, but there's a lot of guys headed to the big leagues from this area because of Perfect Game. So it's a great exposure event. The only thing is the player development is suffering right now because most of the academies, they don't focus on player development. They worry about winning little trophies around here instead of getting the players better.
Now, with the travel baseball and Legion baseball, etc., it seems like there might be a lack of loyalty and a little bit of a lack of integrity as well.
Yeah, that's true, and it's unfortunate. But anyone who's wore a jock and doesn't have a good job now has opened up a baseball academy, and it's it might say former Met Louis Louis, but the thing is he's no more a former Met than my wife. He played a couple weeks in the minors and got cut because he couldn't hit a bull in the butt with a snow shovel. He couldn't throw a baseball in the ocean from the beach. Now he's a former Met, and he puts together 5 or 6 teams and makes a living. Only he really doesn't know what to teach, but it doesn't matter. There's a million people, and what happens for them to compete and get other people's kids, they have to badmouth the other guy. that didn't happen 50 years ago. Like I said, when I was in Little League, I had good coaches, one right after another, and they were all lifers. And they never badmouthed one another. In fact, they all knew each other and helped each other. And that's what's missing right now in the United States because of the conflicts between local and local academies, local travel teams, national travel teams. They swoop in and steal players. And in the meantime, 50% of the major leagues is foreigners. 58% of the minor leagues is foreigners. So American baseball is getting surpassed by the Japanese and the Caribbean countries because they're into player development, helping all the kids get better, where there's too many unscrupulous people right now in some of the things. But I don't want to make a blanket statement. Most of the guys who want to be good coaches have so much information at their fingertips on the internet. They can learn a lot of stuff that took me 40 years to learn. They can find on the thing if they really want to learn and teach the kids. So I don't know. You gotta live in the era that you live in. We live in the era of Perfect Game and PBR, and I think it's a great showcase vehicle for kids from New Jersey. I just think that if the academy doesn't offer you a lot of instruction and player development and can't measure your success, then it's up to the parents to find it for their kids. And most of the parents are focusing on showcasing long before the kids are good enough to showcase. You know, we have players at high schools that aren't good enough to start on the JV asking me, how can I get showcased for Miami? How can I get more exposure? Well, if you need exposure, go to Alaska, take your clothes off, because you're no more ready to play at Miami than the man in the moon, right? But they don't understand that. And so, there's a conflict there. I'd like to see a Major League Baseball take a more active role in educating the coaches. The last time the Phillies sent somebody to Belmar Little League, I was 11 in 1962. And that's when the last Phillies representative came to teach the coaches at Belmar Little League. So, they're sending them to the Caribbean now. They're in the Dominican all winter. So again, everything comes around, goes around. Somebody won a pennant with some home runs, so now everybody has to hit home runs. When I grew up, your strikeout percentage, how many times you struck out, was relevant. 50% of your at-bats, actually 55% of your at-bats are going to end with two strikes. So the guys in the Hall of Fame were good two-strike hitters. The Phillies, when they lost the 4 games to the Diamondbacks, they averaged almost 15 Ks per game in their 4 losses to the Diamondbacks. Not only that, many of them came with no outs or 1 out, man on third, man on second and third. All they had to do was hit 1 ground ball, and they'd have won that series, and they probably would have won the World Series. But they continue, the same guys go up there and strike out time and time again because they don't have a 2-strike approach. Whoever said you don't need a 2-strike approach is wrong, in my opinion. So that's one thing that we got to get back to in America.
Right on. You hinted at it, and 2, I think it's key, but you hear different things with it. And that's the parental responsibility, especially when you're dealing with these travel teams and just so much that goes into it that people don't think about. Being on the road for the weekends and this, that, and the other. But what would you say the parental responsibility is? Because you hear so many horror stories, not just in baseball, but in youth sports to begin with. So where does the line cross or start and stop for parental guidance being there for the kids?
Well, I think most of the players that I had that were hugely successful had a parent or a big brother or coach that took an interest in them and fed their hunger to be a better player. They did whatever they could to help them. And then some of the parents, like my wife used to throw to my son, some of the parents were not major league players. They just put the time in or took the kids to the places they had to go to get to get better. Nowadays, the philosophy is if he ain't starting, we're departing. And that's not a good philosophy. In other words, stand your ground, stay there, and get better. If you send someone to a place because they have a good coach and your son isn't starting, right? You might have 5 other travel coaches kissing your butt to come over. Oh, you'll start and play shortstop for me. Okay, I'm going to jump over there. That doesn't make you a better player. You just left a good organization that has a lot of real good players and they're into player development, but you're going to an organization that's going to let you start and bat third. You're still a 3 on the 10 scale, and you'll be a 3 when you get to high school. You know what I mean? Stay there and hold your ground. And all I can remember when I was in 8th grade, I come home, I told my father, I'm not going to Gloucester County. I want to play basketball, and these 2 or 3 places will let me go play basketball on a varsity as a freshman, maybe. And after I picked myself up off the floor, my father said, "Are you kidding? First off, you're a baseball player. Secondly, Gloucester Catholic's loaded in basketball. Go there, you'll be playing against 11 D1 players every day in practice. If you're any good, which I don't think you are, all right, they'll develop you, all right? But in the meantime, stay there and win your job. Get better. You're not good enough." And he's right. He was right. And that's it. Hold your ground. Stay there and fight, right, until you're good enough. I have never met a great player who didn't start. Never. I've been in it 50-some years. People who argue are talking about my son's the 9th best player. He should be starting instead of this kid or that kid. Maybe he's 9th, maybe he's 12th. But who should decide? The coach or one of the parents? Well, the coach. If the coach says he's 11th and he's not starting, it's your job to try to make him not the 9th player, the 3rd or 4th player, because they never get screwed. They always start. Ken Griffey Jr., A-Rod, Trouty, they never got screwed. I've never met a great player got screwed by a coach. The coaches aren't that bad. Stay there and hold your ground.
You've mentioned Trouty a few times, and obviously you had the opportunity to work with him while he was growing up. And as we mentioned, his father played organized baseball and was in the minors for several years, even up at triple A level. So you got to be a hell of a ball player to get to that level.
He was a great hitter, great player.
But what was it about Mike that made him different amongst some of the athletes you saw throughout the years?
Well, he's got way above average visual skills, reaction skills. They tested him at the AAU World Series one year, and I don't know how many athletes they had, 15,000, and he was off the charts. There was nobody compared with him in visual skills and reaction skills. His dad had it too, and now I saw his nephew. He's got it too. He had a super quick bat. And when he came to us, now his dad actually worked for me while he was coaching at Millville. And his dad is a great coach, great hitting guy. He worked for me at the academy. And I probably worked at least with him of all the guys. I know his dad worked with him a lot. Mike Thompson had him for 2 years. I had him for a couple falls. By that time, Thompson and my son had Trouty hitting our great. And then I guess when he was 14, we won national championships. When he was 15, Thompson moved up with him. And then when he was 16 was my year. My son had the 17s. He stole them off me. He only played one weekend for me. And my son said, he's too good for being on the 16-year-old team. He'll be the best player at the 17-year-old, and he'll get more exposure. So he talked me into giving him Trouty. So I can't take credit for Trouty other than I was the first guy to put him in the outfield. I tell everybody I'll take credit for his outfield play. He was trying out for the USA team at shortstop, and he told the guys, "I'm captain of Mr. Barth's 16-year-old team, and I haven't been there. So I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm going to skip the breakfast. And if that means I don't make the team, I don't make the team because my first loyalty is to my team, Arsenal." So he flew into New York. arrived at a game in the second inning. We're down 7-0. I had my 16-year-old team, but playing against the best 18-year-old team in the East United States. So we're down 7-zip to Joe Rigoli, Cardinal scout to his Cardinals team. And he come and I said, hey, what do you want, the good news or the bad news? And Michael said, give me the good news first. I said, well, you're up first in the second inning because I saved your spot. Oh, great. What's the bad news? I said, the bad news is I'm moving you from shortstop to center field. You're going to play center field this game. And Trouty looked at me and goes, cool. And he sprinted out to center field. And he proceeded to account for 7 runs for us. Knocked them in, stole second, stole third, got a hit every time up, hit home runs. But he made 7 ludicrous catches in the outfield like you've never seen before. So after the game, Joe Rigoli, the Cardinal scout, says, who's Superman? He said, I've been in baseball 40 years. I've never seen a center fielder totally dominate a game. We lost 8-7, by the way. But anyway, Rigoli said, who's that, Superman? I said, Joe, that's his first game ever in center field. He couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. But that's Mike Trout. He does so many things natural that I wouldn't take credit for him. Mike Thompson, my son, what they did for him was taught him the strike zone, and he went from a free swinging guy to a guy with a great knowledge of the strike zone because of all the work my coaches did with him and his dad. And he's got great vision, like I said. But my goal has always been to be able to go to Wawa, walk in and grab 9 kids and make them all like Mike Trout. I don't think that can be done.
So would you say you still keep in touch with Trouty and most of the other players?
I try to keep in touch with all of them. Michael's so busy, it's hard. I talk to his dad probably more than Michael. I talk to his dad all the time. He's still around. He goes to a lot of the games, but he's home a lot. So right now they're building a golf course down in Millville, and I'm supposed to meet with him in February, talk to him about some baseball things. But Mike never forgot where he came from. He sponsors a lot of teams in the South Jersey area. He gives stuff to the kids. He helps a lot of the kids. He's taken Buddy Kennedy under his wing, and they train together. And now Buddy just made the big leagues. But Mike's a special kid. Like he's one of the nicest kids, and actually he comes from one of the nicest families ever. Mrs. Trout was a teen mom, and they were great. And you know, it seems ironic that he's one of the greatest players that ever lived, and he comes from one of the nicest families. And Mr. Trout never worried about where he batted in the order, where he played, what he did. He wanted him to be a team guy, and he's carried that all the way through his career. He's a team guy. That's why he's still with the Angels. You know, he probably could have went elsewhere and made more money, but he's a team person, and they're good people.
Well, if you can ever make a hookup, I not so much for on the air. I would always like to meet the local legend. Obviously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, you definitely want to talk to him. You might want to talk to his dad too, because
I would love it if you can.
His
hook
dad,
up and
yeah,
talk to
his dad has
That'd be awesome.
Dad has a great philosophy, and the funniest part about it, he was the best coach personality-wise. Him and Mike Thompson probably that I ever had. He never showed any anger, never any emotion whatsoever. Always positive. And the reason he came to me, because his wife Debbie said he was killing him, Michael. Everybody's either too soft or too hard on their kids. So he was too hard. So that's why I got him. And I told him, you don't say anything negative to your son. And he didn't from day one. It was amazing. He did exactly. And I know sometimes he felt like saying something, but he always controlled himself. And Michael was always the most controlled, positive person on the team. And his mom and dad, that they were that way as well. So there's something to be said for that. Worry about developing yourself, being a team person. All these college coaches that have these kids jump in teams so they can see them, when they get those kids in college, they want to know why they can't bunt, why they can't steal, why they strike out so damn much, right? It's because you guys kiss their butt too much to get them to jump to teams so you can see them and hide them. It's like treat my players the same way you would treat yours. Tell them to focus, listen to their coach, focus on development, and when they get to you, then you worry about you controlling them. So
Absolutely.
that's it.
So, because it's not an exact science,
No, it's not.
but amateur baseball nowadays seems very hard to predict on who will succeed and who won't. But what do you look at with kids whether you met them or you've had them for a while? What do you look at when you're seeing if, all right, this kid could be, yeah, would we like everybody to be a Mike Trout and whatnot? Yes. But we want to see success to whether it takes you through high school, the game maybe takes you to college and earning a scholarship, so you have something post baseball. What is some of the more important things you look at with these kids?
Well, the two hardest things to find are speed and explosive power. So they're probably the first two things you look for. Foot speed and hand speed. A lot of kids, you can tell, are fast twitch. They just do, their muscles move faster than other people. Grip and forearm strength, and a lot of that is natural. When you shake hands with a first-round pick, Anthony Volpe's a little guy, Trouty, Buster Posey. You shake hands with them, they like to. You think they're going to rip your hand off. Their grip is so strong. That applies to both hitting and pitching. Zach Wheeler, right? Tremendous hand and forearm strength, natural. They're fast twitch. Explosive power is power over less than 3 seconds. So it's people who can jump, vault, etc. And again, they're physical tools. Balance and vision is important. Vision is real important. The average major leaguer's vision is 20/15. Most of the stars are better than that. Like Trouty's vision is 29, and he I was taking him to Reading one year when he was 15 in the fall, and there was a series of mountains up ahead, quite a ways, about 3 mountains, and all of a sudden he says, "Hey, look at that deer. That's at least a 10-pointer, 8-pointer." And all the other kids said, "What deer?" He said, "The one in the 3rd mountain down." And I said, "What mountain?" Right? 5 minutes later, we approached the 2nd mountain, the 3rd mountain, and finally the kids say, "Oh, I see it now." Right? He saw it way back when. So vision is important. It should be tested every year. Physicality is important. But what people don't understand is it's not getting more weight necessarily. It's getting more explosive weight. So these Japanese guys that are coming, their basis is in martial arts. A lot of it is they're 160 pounds throwing 100 miles an hour, right? You don't have to weigh 250 to throw 100 miles an hour. You just got to be more explosive. So your techniques definitely are important. And in the United States, we're blowing people out at 15 and 16. We're ruining thousands and thousands of arms by having them throw weighted balls and doing things that their connective tissue isn't developed enough to hold. You can build the muscles up, but then you could blow out your elbow, your shoulder, your career is over. It could be over. And that's what's happening in the United States, where the guys down in the Dominican, they may not weigh 250 pounds. They're strong for their weight. You look at Altuve. He's strong and explosive for his size. He don't have to be as big as Judge. He has to be as explosive as he can be. And so that's something that, you can't necessarily be a weightlifter isn't necessarily the answer for everybody. If I'm a case in point. I'm not a super fast twitch guy. If I gain 10 pounds, I gain 10 pounds. I got kids, if they gain 10 pounds, they'll gain 10 miles an hour. All right. So you want to work on your explosiveness. And nobody in the United States really does that. We do a lot of martial arts stuff because of that. A lot of jumping and vaulting.
So, if folks want to see what you do, the different programs and such, Hit Doctor, Arsenal USA and such, where's the best place people can
Well, right now I'm not doing that. I do Arsenal USA in 42 states, but in New Jersey, I sold the rights to New Jersey. Right now I'm working at the Young Guns Academy in Sickerville. Young Guns was the only team really that gave us much competition over the 30 years we had Arsenal. And they were always the best sports, the best coach teams we ever played till we got to the World Series in Florida. And they hold their own against anybody in the country. But again, they charge a reasonable amount, give you a lot of practice and a lot of training. So I'm down there. I'm training the trainers, and I'm keeping in touch with all my students nationwide. But I just work down there and help them out a little bit. And I tried to help my brother with Gloucester Catholic in Brooklyn a little bit. I broke my neck about a year ago, so that's cooled my jets a little bit. And right now, I'm working on the apps. I'm trying to take my hitting app across the country, because basically all we do is identify how the players make their outs and what kind of pitches they're swinging at, and then we build a program to improve on that. And it's been really successful with my pro guys, and now I'm going to try to get it to the younger players. They're all trying to change their swings to swing like so-and-so told them to. And it's like, no, that's wrong. You're 15 years old. You already have a stance. You already have a swing, right? Let's figure out how you make your outs and why, and stay your way. You know, your body has 13 motor preferences, right? You either hit with the muscles in the front of your body or the back of your body. You play sports with the muscles from the waist down or the waist up, being boss. It's like being married. It's no 50-50. One of them is the boss, right? Mm-hmm. Depending on whether you are there, right there, that's only two choices. Front of the body, back, or lower and top. Right away, you split the hitters in half, right? Well, there's 13 preferences. You can only achieve balance. Some people can only achieve it on the balls of their feet, others in the center of their feet, and others on the heels. Until you know that, you can't correct a guy perfectly. I'm telling you, if a kid's been untouched from 7 years old to 15 years old, he's already figured all that stuff out. He's operating at his best modus operandi, unless someone's changed it. And you can quickly, we test for that, but we quickly, if a guy's a stand-up hitter, he's a stand-up hitter. If a guy's a squatting hitter, he's a squatting hitter. He should never be changed from that. And I'm oversimplifying it, but by 13, 14, kids have developed what they should be doing. They just haven't perfected it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Two final questions for you, sir. First being, what's your feeling on things like analytics? Because obviously, not that I was old enough to remember a lot of them, but you think of guys like, say, a Nolan Ryan, a Bob Gibson, Goose Gossage, Carlton, etc. These guys, pitching wise, there wasn't pitch counts per se. And
right.
if you look at them and say, the coach would go, "Hey, I think it might be time to pull you," they give you the look of like, "Excuse me for saying off," and finish the game. But yet nowadays it's all about the stats and the analytics and all that fun stuff. So where do you stand on that kind of thing?
Well, point number one, I think it's like anything else. When the West Coast offense came in, everybody went to the West Coast offense. You could have a guy with a cannon and could throw the ball 60 yards in the air. No, we're going to do the West Coast offense. It runs in trends. So now it's sit and spin hitting, grunt and toot and throw 100 miles an hour, right? you can't do that. There's no nevers or always in baseball. You got to let your talent dictate what you do, not the other way around. The analytics guys from Harvard and MIT, God bless them, but they're telling you the law of averages. They're not telling you, they never played the game. They don't understand that the manager has a feel for it, that baseball has momentum swings just like any other sport. Hitting is contagious. They don't account for that. Hitting in this 8th and 9th inning is more valuable than in the 1st or 2nd inning. Okay. It may not account for more runs, but it counts for more winning runs. So there has to be a combination of a guy like Brett Boone has a feel for the game, or Charlie Manuel has a feel for the game, also giving him the statistics. So he can, but there's a time when you have to ignore it. And the other thing is, if I have the Yankees or the Dodgers payroll this year is going to be $370 million. I hope all 32 teams play by the book. Why? Because I'm going to kick their ass because I have all the best players. All right. Baseball, the best team only wins 66% of the time at the most. Okay. If I don't have the best players, I'm not going to play by the book. I'm going to create pressure. I'm going to try to affect the emotion. I'm going to try to get in Ohtani's head, and I'm going to try to make him collapse, implode like a little baby. That's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to do whatever I got to do to win. These people are all going to do the same thing as the Dodgers. They're going to swing from their ass and try to hit home runs and pay little pipsqueaks like Jimmy Rollins and what was the other guy? The little guy from the Hawaii.
Victorino
And Rollins against the Yankees when they got swept 4 straight. They said, oh, Worth didn't hit. Utley didn't hit. Ryan Howard didn't hit. Guess what? They didn't get nothing to hit because Rollins and Victorino didn't get on base at all. If they're on, they get fastballs to hit. You need the rabbits for the big dogs to eat. All right. Secondly, I caught Bob Feller in an All-Star game. I caught Ray Narleski. Ray was 65. He was throwing 85 miles an hour. He threw doubleheaders, come back a day later, threw a whole game, threw a doubleheader again. It's like any other muscle group. You got to start early, get your arm stronger and stronger. Injuries only occur when your arm isn't developed enough or you're not strong enough to throw. You should be able to throw full speed, 100 pitches, easy. These 80 pitch limits and all that, you're making these guys 5-inning pitchers. They would only be 5-inning pitchers if they have limits their whole life. Ray Narleski could throw all day. Feller could throw all day. Doubleheaders, 2 9-inning games. I've seen them both do it. Okay, and they were little guys that could throw 100 miles an hour, doubleheader, take a day off, throw another doubleheader. Right. So you're only as good as what you develop your arm for. Right. There's software now. There's gadgets you can hook onto the arm. It tells you whether the shoulder's ready to go, the elbow's ready to go, and your back is ready to go. If you get a green light on all 3, you're ready to go. I've seen guys who are ready to go every day, and they get taken out. They're still all green lights. I've seen other guys that grew up with a 50, 70 pitch limit. When they approach 70 pitches, the lights go off. They don't have nothing left. So it doesn't make any sense. Zach Wheeler pitched against me when he was 14, 15, and 16, right? He always threw the whole game, every game, whole game. So that's my – it's always easy to buy into the new theory, right? But it doesn't always work. History repeats itself over and over again. And you need rabbits in order to set the table so that the big boys eat, right? If you throw Ryan Howard should have been a Hall of Famer, right? Guy was the most powerful guy I ever saw on a field, right? But the Rabbits didn't get on in that series, and so they don't have to throw to him. Anyway, I'm preaching to the choir.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously you're a fan of the game. So my last question is, who would you, and I know it could be a tough choice, so if you got to throw out multiple names, please do so. But who would you say your favorite player or players are from all time?
My favorite players, well, I'm biased. Trouty and Griffey. After those two, I would say Owatani, Judge, and A-Rod.
Okay.
They're my favorite five. I mean, I'm a big Babe Ruth fan too. I follow all those old timers, and I like Harper because he plays the game hard. But it's hard to pinpoint one. But my pop was not one of those guys that's an old timer guy. He said in every sport, every sport that he's ever seen, the players just keep getting better and better. But he said there was only one Babe Ruth.
Exactly.
And he was the strongest guy ever.
So, Joe Barth, thank you so much for the time.
Oh, thank you. I had so much fun.
Appreciate it. And stay in touch, please.
I will. Thank you very much.
Have a good rest of the day.
You too. Thank you.
Hey there, Friday fans. We know how much you enjoy the movies. Enjoy grabbing your Friday merchandise and interacting with the Friday family, whether it be at conventions or during our particular watch-alongs. Well, when you're looking to get yourself masks, why not check out our friends over at Camp Blood Customs out of New York State and order your specific custom mask from any of the films. All orders are made specifically. Your needs and wants are. Make sure you find Camp Blood Customs on Facebook, Instagram, and all over social media and order yours today.
Hi, I'm Bill Ripken, and you're listening to Crazy Train Radio.